Hello today. Let's start in the United States of America with Rortybomb and information that he's got together on student loans. There are a lot more charts in his article, but I've got two out. This is the first, and it's by age. Student loans that are outstanding by age. And at the bottom, that red one is 75 and older. And obviously there are one or two people with student loans 75 or older, but not many. Very few 65 to 74. But all the other age groups are 10% of people and above. So even the 55 to 64% age group are still over 10% with student loans. Even more obviously 45 to 54, 35 to 44. But the obvious one that stands out is the blue line. People younger than 35, a third of those people do have state student loans outstanding. That's it. Move on to the next one. It's good information, so it's a bit out of date. But we can see that the white and non-Hispanic blue line has been rising, of course, from 1989, and the non-white and Hispanic is a bit more jaggedy, generally over the blue line, but it has really taken off since 2004, and from what I can gather it is still taking off very high indeed, obviously because the jobs are not available there, that the non-white and Hispanic people, young people, are taking out large student loans. It's going to be a very difficult future. Right, let's move on to the Richmond Fed, I think this is. And they're trying to catch up on what happened? Mushki, what happened, Mushki? What's going on with this recession stuff? Okay. Recoveries from recessions associated with banking crises. How does this one compare? What's happened here is that it's taken them 3 years to realise that this wasn't a standard inventory recession like all the other ones since the Second World War. An inventory recession is just where a section of the economy has got itself out of whack. It's got a bit too over-optimistic and something's happened and they've been stuck with a load of inventory, had to drop the prices, and it's caused a recession. But this one was obviously different, but they took ages to spot it. But now they're up to date with that and putting it in as a banking crisis, and I think they're still wrong. But still, let's see what they have to say in their introduction. The Richmond boys. Recessions associated with banking crises tend to differ from other recessions in that the weakness of the financial sector, particularly the limited supply of credit, encumbers the subsequent recovery. The recovery from 2007 to 9 recession, compared to past recoveries from recessions associated with banking crises, is within the historical range in terms of its level of GDP growth. In terms of unemployment, however, the recovery from the 2007-2009 recession is markedly weaker than historical norm. So something else is going on then, kids, isn't it? Keep looking. And we get a chart. Figure 1, GDP balance performance relative to years when recessions began. And what we have is the dark line is recessions with a banking crisis. And the GDP doesn't take off as high as it does as recessions without a banking crisis, a standard recession. But you can see they're really not pulling out the real banking crises because the rise is still very steep after a banking crisis. And what they've tracked what the United States is doing now. And this is the GDP one that isn't doing too badly, quite within bounds they said it was, but you can see it's still well below even recessions with banking crises. There is something else going on. Right, let's move on to what it might be, or at least part of what it might be. Hours of work needed to buy a barrel of crude oil. Now this is a Ron Grease chart store chart, and I've put the green oval in. But you can imagine what they've done. He's said how he gets what a man-hour is worth in the blue up there, but as long as it's standard across the whole chart, it doesn't really matter. And what we can see is this is hours of work needed to buy a barrel of crude oil. So before that oval started, and the oval runs from 85 to 03, so nearly 20 years, 85 to 03. Before then, it was all very up. A lot of hours were needed to buy a barrel of crude oil, and it went from a level that was within the oval sort of area. And if you were there in the 70s and early 80s, you'll remember things were a bit off. They were a lot off. There were times when everyone thought the world was going to end. They were that off. But then from 85 to 03, the golden years, the hours of work needed to buy a barrel of crude oil was very stable and low. But again, kicking off from 03 till now, the hours of work needed to buy a barrel of crude oil has been elevated. And things are again off. I think we can start presuming that there is a linkage there. But how we can link it all together is yet to be decided. I'm sure the Richmond Fed will get it one day. So I'll just throw this chart in, because unless you're keeping an eye on the price of oil, now this is again WTI NYMEX. So it's not the world price, but it's what a lot of people still keep their eye on. And you would think with all the problems that are going on that the price should have been going down. But you can see this is a monthly chart that I've got out, so it's 1 month going back. The red line is the 50-day moving average, so we can ignore that for the moment, but that gives us the trend. But the actual price has gone from 85 to nearly 96, and it finished just under 96 yesterday. They say it's because of Iran and the possibility that somebody's going to nuke Iran for building nukes, and that's why they're willing to pay such a high price even at WTI in America. And obviously the Brent crude price going up as well. I think it has to be something more than just the possibility of somebody nuking Iran in a few weeks' time. Still, we don't know. Let's go over to Europe quite quickly. The Financial Times, when I came to get this tab to make this presentation, had changed the headline on this because it was actually the headline I liked. But ailing Dexia's 6.3 billion euro third quarter losses tells us the story. But the headline, before it was changed, was something along the lines of Dexia announces 6.3 billion losses after nationalisation. In other words, this is the third quarter losses, 6.3 billion for a bank. 6.3 billion. The second quarter wasn't losses at all. The difference between being it was private, semi-private in quarter two, but now it's nationalised. It can now tell the truth, basically, that the losses were always huge and any stress tests done before the nationalisation were a con. And this does not lift confidence in anybody or anything. Finish with this euro, because that's what's causing the fuss at the moment. Grand Viceroy Wren. This is Ollie Wren. You know, other countries like Ireland know about when Ollie Wren comes to visit you, you know you're in trouble. Silvio might be going, but Italy remains front and centre for the euro mess. On Tuesday evening, Ollie Rehn, the EU's Economic and Monetary Commissioner, presented Giulio Tremonti, Italy's finance minister, with a detailed set of questions on the emergency austerity package passed in September that aims to eliminate the country's budget deficit by 2013. And he wants an answer. And he wants the answers by Friday. Whether they will be satisfactory is another matter entirely, but how do you think this is all going to work out when Olli Rehn, the EU's Economic and Monetary Commissioner, wants answers, and he wants answers by Friday from Tremonti, Italy's finance minister? Does it have the smell, the feel of something that's really going to work out well? No, it doesn't. Bye.